The rain falls in a steady, gray sheet, turning the asphalt of the highway to a slick black mirror. Inside the dusty Spoon Diner, the air is thick with the smell of fried bacon, burnt coffee, and damp wool. Steam fogs the wide plate glass windows, blurring the world outside into a watercolor wash of headlights and gloom. In a corner booth, men sit in a kind of quiet communion. They are large men, mountains of denim and worn leather. Their vests bear the same patch, a stoic, snarling wolf's head encircled by the words, Road Guardians. Chrome and steel gleam from buckles and chains, catching the low, yellow light of the diner. Their faces are maps of hard miles and harder living, etched with lines that speak of sun, wind, and things best left unsaid. Tattoos crawl from beneath their cuffs and collars, intricate patterns of ink on weathered skin. The man at the head of the booth is the largest of them all. His name is Bear. He has a beard the color of salt and pepper and eyes that seem to see more than they let on. He sips his black coffee, his movements slow and deliberate, a study in contained power. Across from him, Reaper, thin and wiry with a hawk-like intensity, methodically cleans his glasses with a napkin. Beside Bear, the man they call Doc, a former combat medic with surprisingly gentle hands, stirs sugar into his tea. And at the end, Ghost sits with his back to the wall, a habit from a past life, his gaze sweeping the room with a practiced, almost subconscious vigilance. They are a dissonant chord in the diner's mundane symphony. Other patrons, a family with 2 kids, a pair of truckers, a traveling salesman, give their booth a wide berth. Whispers follow them like a wake. Fear and fascination in equal measure. The waitress, Sharon, refills their mugs with a trembling hand, her smile tight and professional. She sees the leather, the chains, the hard faces, and she makes assumptions. Everyone does. Bear offers a quiet, thanks, his voice a low gravel that seems to vibrate in the air. She just nods, scurrying back to the perceived safety of the kitchen pass-through. The peace is fragile. A temporary truce between their world and this one. Then the bell above the door jangles violently, a frantic, discordant sound that cuts through the low hum of conversation. The door bangs open. A small boy stands on the threshold, framed by the gray, wet afternoon. He is maybe 7, maybe 8 years old. His hair is plastered to his forehead with rain and sweat. He wears no shoes, only thin socks now soaked and dark with grime. His jeans are torn at the knee, and his t-shirt is thin, offering no protection from the chill. Tears carve clean tracks through the dirt on his face. His chest heaves with ragged, desperate sobs. For a moment, the entire diner freezes. Forks stop halfway to mouths. Conversazionsstille. Every eye turns to the small, trembling figure at the door. The boy's gaze, wide with terror, sweeps the room. It passes over the family, the truckers, the salesman. It lands on the corner booth, on the 4 large men in leather vests. For a heartbeat, fear wars with desperation on his young face. Then desperation wins. He takes a staggering step forward, then another. A tiny, choked voice pierces the silence. Help! He stumbles towards them, his small hands balled into fists. Please help me. He reaches their booth, his gaze fixed on Bear's impassive face. They're taking my mommy, he cries, the words tumbling out in a rush of panic. The bad man. He locked her in the room, and he said we have to go away. Inside the boy's mind, there's only white noise and a single, repeating image. Mommy's face, pale and scared. The sharp click of a lock. A man's smooth voice, a voice like honey mixed with poison, telling him to be a good boy and come along. The terror is a physical thing, a cold knot in his stomach, a scream trapped in his throat. He ran. He doesn't know how long or how far. He just ran until his lungs burned and his feet were numb, until the lights of the diner offered a sliver of hope in the suffocating darkness. Now, looking at the giant, bearded man, he feels a fresh spike of fear, but it is different. This is the fear of a cornered animal choosing which predator to face. He chooses the one who has not yet hurt him. Bear's expression does not change, but his eyes soften almost imperceptibly. He slides out of the booth, his sheer size eclipsing the boy. He kneels, a slow, deliberate movement that puts him on the boy's level. The scent of old leather, engine oil, and rain fills the air around them. "Easy, son." Bear's voice is still a low rumble, but the gravel has been smoothed away, replaced by something else. Something calm. Something solid. "You're safe here. What's your name?" "Leo," the boy whispers, his body still trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Okay, Leo." Bear doesn't touch him, respecting the boy's terror. "Just breathe. You're with us now." The bell on the door jingles again. This time, the sound is soft, controlled. A man steps inside, shaking a fine mist of rain from the shoulders of an expensive-looking charcoal suit. He is handsome in a polished, manicured way. His hair is perfectly styled, his shoes gleam despite the weather, and his smile is bright, practiced, and utterly devoid of warmth. He scans the room, his eyes landing on the scene in the corner. The smile widens, becoming a mask of paternal concern. "Oh, thank heavens," he says, his voice smooth and articulate, the voice of a man used to being in charge. "Leo, there you are. You gave me such a scare." He starts forward, exuding an aura of calm authority. "I'm so terribly sorry for this disruption," he says to the room at large. "My nephew has a very active imagination. He gets these episodes. It's part of his trauma. We're working on it with his therapist." At the sound of the man's voice, Leo flinches violently. He scrambles backward, pressing himself against Bear's massive leg as if trying to merge with it. "No," the boy hisses, his voice raw with fear. "Don't let him take me. He's the one. He hurt Mommy." The man in the suit stops a few feet from Booth. He lets out a patient, condescending sigh. "Leo, we've talked about this. Making up stories isn't going to bring your father back. It just makes things harder for your mother." He directs his attention to Bear, his gaze flicking over the leather vest with dismissive contempt. "I appreciate your concern," he says, the pause before the word dripping with insincerity. "But this is a private family matter. I'm his legal guardian for this trip. Leo, come on. Let's go." He holds out a hand, his smile unwavering. But Leo doesn't move. He just clutches Bear's jeans tighter, his knuckles white. Bear remains kneeling, a silent mountain between the boy and the well-dressed man. He doesn't look at the man. His focus is entirely on the terrified child. "What's his name?" Bear asks Leo, his voice a quiet rumble. Leo peeks around Bear's leg. "Mr. Thompson," he whispers. Bear slowly rises to his full height. He turns, his shadow falling over Mr. Thompson. The man's smile falters for a fraction of a second. He is not used to being looked down upon. "The boy is staying here," Bear says. "It is not a request. It is a statement of fact." Reaper, Ghost, and Doc remain seated, but they're no longer relaxed. They're coiled springs. Their stillness is more menacing than any overt threat. Mr. Thompson's affable mask slips back into place. He chuckles, a dry, patronizing sound. "I think you misunderstand. I am Michael Thompson of Finch, Thompson, and Gable. I am the executor of his late father's estate and, by court order, the temporary guardian responsible for transporting him and his mother to her sister's home in Springfield." He gestures vaguely with his manicured hand. "His mother is unwell. She had a moment of distress back at the motel. I was just calming her down when Leo panicked and ran. He's a sensitive boy. The story is plausible. It is reasonable." The other patrons in the diner begin to relax, their sympathies shifting toward the well-spoken man in the suit. They see a difficult situation, a troubled child, and a responsible adult trying to manage it. They see what they're supposed to see. The road guardians see something else entirely. They see the way Mr. Thompson's eyes never quite match his smile. They see the way Leo recoils from his voice, not his words. They see the predatory confidence of a wolf who has just found his flock of sheep interrupted by a pack of other, bigger wolves. "Where's his mother now?" Reaper asks from a booth, his voice sharp and cutting. Thompson turns, slightly irritated by the interruption. As I said, she is resting at our motel. The Crossways Inn, just down the road. Room 207. I was just about to go back to her. Why is the boy barefoot? Doc asks, his tone conversational. Thompson's gaze tightens. He ran out in a panic. He didn't stop for his shoes. And the torn jeans? Ghost adds, his voice quiet from the back of the booth. He must have fallen while he was running through the woods behind the motel. Thompson says, his patience clearly wearing thin. Look, I don't have time for this 20 questions routine. I have a distraught mother to care for and a child who needs to be returned to her. Now, if you'll kindly step aside. He tries to step around Bear. Bear doesn't move. He simply shifts his weight, a subtle adjustment that once again blocks Thompson's path. You said you're his guardian, Bear states. Court appointed. Thompson clarifies, annoyance coloring his tone. For the purposes of this relocation. But he called you Mr. Thompson, Bear observes. Not Uncle Mike. Not by your first name. A flash of anger in Thompson's eyes. He quickly suppresses it. We maintain a professional relationship. It's healthier, given the circumstances of his father's passing. It is a good answer. A smart answer. But feels wrong. Leo, Bear says, his voice dropping again, drawing the boy's attention. This man, he locked your mother in the room. Leo nods frantically, his eyes wide. In the bathroom, he took her phone. He said she needed to be quiet for a while. And what else, Leo? Bear prompts gently. What did you see? The boy hesitates, his little brow furrowed in concentration, trying to push past the wall of fear. The box, he finally whispers. He has a metal box, with my mommy's name on it. Thompson scoffs. He's talking about a briefcase. It contains legal documents pertaining to the estate. Her name is on them, naturally. No, Leo insists, his voice a little stronger now. Not a briefcase. A silver box. In his car. In the trunk. He looks up at Bear, his eyes pleading. And he took my blue dinosaur. It was in Mommy's red suitcase, and he took it. He put it in the storage place. This is it. The shift. The moment suspicion hardens into certainty. A briefcase is one thing. A suitcase and a toy are another. Storage place. Reaper leans forward, his interest peaked. Unit 1138, Leo says, the number coming out clear and certain. At the U-store place with the orange door. He said we had to put Mommy's things there to keep them safe. But he took my dinosaur. The specificity of the number hangs in the air. It is not the kind of detail a child invents in a panic. Thompson's face goes rigid. The charming mask dissolves, replaced by a cold, hard fury. This is absurd, he snaps. I'm not going to be interrogated by a gang of thugs based on the deluded fantasies of a traumatized child. I am leaving, with my ward. And if you attempt to stop me, I will call the police and have you all arrested for kidnapping. Go ahead, Ghost says softly. Call them. Thompson glares at him, then at Bear. He sees no fear, no hesitation, only an unnerving, absolute stillness. He reaches for his phone, but Reaper is faster. Not with a threat, but with a simple, logical action. He pulls out his own phone, taps the screen a few times, and puts on speaker. What's a motel? Reaper asks, his eyes locked on Thompson. The Crossways Inn, Thompson says through clenched teeth. Reaper finds a number and dials. The phone rings once, twice. Crossways Inn, this is Brenda. A cheerful voice answers. Hi, Brenda, Reaper says calmly. I need to check on a guest. In room 207. A woman and her young son. Room 207. Brenda sounds confused. Sir, that room has been vacant for 2 days. We're waiting on a part for the air conditioner. Silence. A thick, heavy silence that suffocates the entire diner. Every patron is now staring. Their face is a mixture of shock and dawning horror. The plausible story has just been shredded. Thompson's face drains of all color. The mask is gone. Beneath it is something cold, reptilian, and utterly panicked. She must have made a mistake, he sputters, his voice losing its polished baritone, becoming thin and reedy. It must be a different room. I can't be expected to remember every little detail. You said 207, Doc says, his voice flat. I misspoke. Thompson's eyes dart toward the door, calculating angles, escape routes. Bear takes a small, almost casual step, closing off the most direct path. My colleague is also a lawyer, Bear says, nodding toward document. Doc gives a small, grim smile. He finds it strange that a court-appointed guardian for a cross-state relocation wouldn't have the motel receipt in his pocket, or a custody order. Thompson's composure cracks completely. You have no right, he shrieks, his voice pitching high with desperation. You have no authority. I am a respected member of the bar. I will ruin you. I will sue this entire greasy spoon into oblivion. He lunges. Not at Bear. That would be suicide. He lunges for Leo, a desperate, wild grab to reclaim his leverage, his victim. He never gets close. Ghost moves with a liquid speed that seems impossible for a man his size. He is out of the booth, and between Thompson and the boy before the man's lunge is even halfway complete. Ghost's hand shoots out, not in a punch, but with an open palm. It connects with Thompson's chest. There is no loud crack, no dramatic sound effect. Just a dull, solid thump. The force of it stops Thompson dead and sends him stumbling backward. He trips over his own expensive shoes and crashes into an empty table, sending salt and pepper shakers flying. He lands in a heap of flailing limbs and wounded pride, his suit now wrinkled and stained with spilled water. He gasped for the air that was just forced from his lungs. The entire diner is frozen in stunned silence. The waitress, Sharon, has her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. The family in the other booth has pulled their children close. Bear walks slowly over to the fallen man. He crouches down, bringing his face level with Thompson's. The thing about us, Bear says, his voice a deadly quiet whisper, is that we believe kids. He plucks the car keys from Thompson's jacket pocket. He tosses them to Reaper. Reaper, check the trunk of his car. Ghost, call Detective Miller. Tell him we have a situation at the Dusty Spoon. And tell him to run a check on a storage unit. You store it. Unit 1138-inch. His men move without a word, a well-oiled machine. Ghost pulls out his phone and walks toward the front of the diner for better reception. Reaper heads out the door, the keys jingling softly in his hand. Thompson, still on the floor, looks up at Bear, his face a mask of disbelief and impotent rage. You can't do this, he rasps. Already did, Bear replies, standing up. He walks back over to Leo, who is watching everything with wide, unblinking eyes. The trembling has stopped. He is still scared, but a new emotion is dawning in his eyes. Awe. Bear kneels again. You were very brave, Leo. The bravest man in this room. Tears well up in the boy's eyes again, but these are different. They are not tears of terror. They are tears of relief. He finally lets go of Bear's leg and launches himself into the big man's arms, burying his face in the worn leather of Bear's vest. Bear's huge arms come up and encircle the small boy, holding him gently, securely. A low, rumbling sound starts in Bear's chest, a soothing vibration. He is humming, a simple, nameless tune. The diner door opens again. Reaper stands there, his face grim. He holds up a small, well-loved stuffed dinosaur. It is blue. It was in the trunk, Reaper says, his voice tight with anger, along with a silver document box and a roll of duct tape. The last 3 words land like stones in the silent room. A collective gasp ripples through the patrons. The illusion is shattered. The wolf is revealed. Sirens begin to wail in the distance, a faint cry that grows steadily louder. 2 police cruisers and an unmarked sedan pull into the diner's parking lot, their lights painting the interior in strobing flashes of red and blue. A detective in a rumpled suit steps out of the sedan. Detective Miller. He's a man who has known the road guardians for years, understands their peculiar code. He enters the diner, his gaze taking in the scene. Thompson on the floor, Ghost by the door, Bear holding the boy, and Reaper holding the dinosaur. He sighs. Bear, what did you get into this time? Just cleaning up some trash, Dave. Bear rumbles, not looking up from the boy in his arms. Miller's professional gaze settles on Thompson. Michael Thompson, you have a warrant out of Northwood County for fraud and embezzlement. Looks like we're going to add kidnapping to the list. Officers help a sputtering, protesting Thompson to his feet and cuff him. As they lead him away, he screams threats and promises of lawsuits, but his words have no power here anymore. They are just the pathetic cries of a predator who has been cornered and exposed. Miller crouches down. Son, he says to Leo, can you tell me where your mom is? Leo pulls his head back from Bear's vest. His voice is small but clear. The old motel. The one with the broken sign. Room 7. He locked her in the bathroom. Miller nods to one of his officers, who immediately heads for his car. We'll find her, Miller assures him. You did a good thing today, kid. A very brave thing. Leo looks from the detective to the giant holding him. He knows who the real heroes are. Less than 20 minutes later, a patrol car returns. A woman gets out. She is pale, her eyes are red-rimmed and haunted, and there is a dark bruise forming on her cheek. But she is standing. She is free. She sees Leo, and a strangled cry escapes her lips. Now! She runs into the diner, her eyes only for her son. Bear gently sets Leo down on his own 2 feet. The boy sprints across the linoleum floor and crashes into his mother's arms. They cling to each other, a desperate, sobbing reunion in the middle of the Dusty Spoon Diner. The entire room watches, many with tears in their own eyes. The waitress, Sharon, is openly weeping. After a long moment, the mother looks up, her gaze finding the 4 men in the corner booth, who have resumed their seats as if nothing has happened. She walks over to them, holding Leo's hand tightly. She starts, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say. Thompson, was our family lawyer. After my husband died, he was supposed to be helping us. Instead, he stole everything. When I found out, he said he was taking us somewhere no one would find us. Her voice breaks. You saved us. You saved my son. She fumbles in her pocket. I don't have much, but please let me pay you for the food at least. Bear holds up a hand, stopping her. No payment, he says, his voice gentle. Ever. He looks down at Leo. Your boy saved you. He was brave enough to ask for help. That makes him family. He reaches into his vest and pulls off a small, circular patch. It's a miniature version of the snarling wolf head. He kneels one last time and offers it to Leo. For the brave man, he says. Leo takes the patch, his small fingers tracing the embroidered threads. His mother looks at these 4 intimidating men she would have crossed the street to avoid just yesterday, and she sees them for what they are. Guardians. Thank you, she whispers, the words full of a gratitude so profound it leaves no room for anything else. Doc pays their bill, leaving a $100 bill on the table, enough for their meal and a generous tip for a shaken Sharon. Then, as quietly as they arrived, they stand and walk out of the diner, leaving the reunited family in the care of the authorities. They step out into the rain, which is softened to a fine drizzle. The world smells clean now, washed. 6 months later, the road guardians are gathered around a campfire in the high desert of Arizona. The sky is a vast, dark blanket pricked with a million silver stars. Ghost passes a crumpled envelope to Bear. It's addressed simply to the bear at the Dusty Spoon Diner, forwarded from the diner itself. Bear opens it. Inside is a school photograph. It's Leo. He is smiling a wide, bright, gap-toothed grin. He is wearing a new jacket, and pinned proudly to the collar is a small, round patch of a snarling wolf. On the back of the photo, in a child's careful printing, are 5 words. I am brave. Like you. Below it, in a woman's elegant script. He sleeps with it on his pillow every night. We are safe. We are happy. Thank you for giving us our lives back. Sarah and Leo. Bear looks at the photo for a long moment. A slow smile touches his lips, a rare and genuine thing. He passes the picture to Reaper, who passes it to Doc, who passes it to Ghost. Each man looks at it, and a silent understanding passes between them. This is why they ride. This is the code. Protect the innocent. Defend the weak. Ask for nothing in return. Their code, Their purpose has been tested once again, and it has been reaffirmed under a vast and starry sky. Bear stares into the crackling flames, the faces of countless others they have helped flickering in the embers. He takes a deep breath of the cool night air. The road stretches on, endless and uncertain. And somewhere, another child might be scared. Another wolf might be circling. The guardians will be ready.